In problems 31 to 40, some modeling problems have been given. Similar to modeling problems we have done in the previous chapters, we will first set up the mathematical model in form of a differential equation. Then we'll solve the differential equation, and at the end we will interpret the physical significance of the solution. So let us start with the problems. Problem 31 is about Newton's law of cooling. The statement reads, if the temperature of a cake is 300 degrees Fahrenheit when it leaves the oven and is 200 degrees Fahrenheit 10 minutes later, when will it be practically equal to the room temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit? Say, when will it be 61 degrees Fahrenheit? So let us write down the data given in the question first. The temperature of the cake was 300 degrees Fahrenheit when it left the oven. So temperature of the cake at time t0 equal to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. This is at time t equal to 0. We have considered time t0 at the time when the cake leaves the oven. After 10 minutes, that is Tc10, the temperature of the cake was 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This is at time t equal to 10 minutes. Now the temperature of the room has been given, which is 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and the room temperature has been considered constant throughout the time period. So this is constant throughout the time period. Now you can see that since the temperature of the room is lesser than the temperature of the cake, that is why the cake is losing temperature, that is, it is losing heat to outside, to the surrounding. That is why its temperature is decreasing. Initially its temperature was 300, after 10 minutes it decreased to 200, and we can see clearly that it will keep on decreasing till it reaches 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the question is asking what time it will take to reach this 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So let us say it will take time t to reach 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So this problem will be solved using Newton's law of cooling. I have already discussed Newton's law of cooling in a previous video, that is while solving problem number 25 of chapter 1.3 in video number 8. You can refer to video number 8 for problem number 25 of chapter 1.3 to learn more about Newton's law of cooling and how to solve problems using Newton's law of cooling. I will assume that you know the Newton's law of cooling, the basics of it, and how to solve the problems, and I will proceed accordingly. So the Newton's law of cooling is the rate of change of temperature with respect to time, that is dt by d small t, the rate of change of temperature capital T with respect to time. Here T is the temperature of the cake, is proportional to the temperature difference between the body and its surrounding, that is proportional to the temperature of cake minus temperature of the room. So the rate of change of temperature with respect to time is proportional to the difference of temperature of the cake and the room. So to make it an equation, we can write dt by d small t equal to k t minus tr, where k is the constant of proportionality. Now we can clearly see that as time increases, the cake will keep on losing its temperature. So that is why this dt by dt, that is the rate of change of temperature with respect to time, is a negative quantity, because the temperature of the cake keeps on decreasing with increase in time. And also we can see that this T minus Tr is the difference of temperature of cake minus the temperature of the room. So this will be a positive quantity because the temperature of the cake is higher than the temperature of the room. That means this K must be a negative quantity. So K is negative. Usually you don't need to bother about the sign of K, because you will see after we have solved the differential equation, K will automatically come out to be negative. So let us separate the variables, that is the t variable, which is the dependent variable, and the independent variable small t. So we can see this is equal to dt by t minus TR equal to K dt. We have separated the dependent variable capital T and the independent variable small t. Now we can integrate this equation both sides, and you can take T minus TR as S substitution, that is substitute T minus TR equal to S to solve the left hand side integration, which will be natural log T minus TR, and this will be equal to K small t plus constant of integration, let us say C1, and this implies T minus TR equal to e to the power kt plus C1, which implies T equal to TR plus C e to the power kt, and this is the general solution. Now we have two unknowns here, one unknown is C and another unknown is K. So to get the values of the two unknowns, we need two initial value conditions which have been given to us here. At T equal to 0, the temperature of the cake is 300, and this is another initial value condition. At T equal to 10, the temperature of the cake is 200. So we can put these two initial value conditions in this general solution to get the values of the two unknowns, that is C and K. So from initial value condition 1, we have T equal to 0, T equal to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and this implies we will put 300 equal to temperature of room, which is 60, plus C e to the power K multiplied by T, which is 0, so 0. So this quantity is now C, and from this C equal to 240. So C is 240. Its unit will be in degrees Fahrenheit. Because this e to the power kt is dimensionless, so the dimension of C must be equal to the dimension of T and TR. So C is 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And the second initial value condition is at T equal to 10 minutes, capital T equal to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This implies 200 equal to 60 plus C e to the power K multiplied by 10, and this implies 140 is equal to C e to the power 10K. We have C is 240 degrees, we have C equal to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. So this implies e to the power 10K equal to 140 divided by 240, which is equal to 7 divided by 12. Now this implies 10K equal to natural log 7 divided by 12, and this implies K equal to 1 by 10 natural log 7 divided by 12, which implies K equal to minus 0.0539. You can see that K value has come out as negative, as we had discussed in here. Usually for these type of problems, you don't need to bother about the sign of the constant of proportionality, because the constant of proportionality will automatically come out as positive or negative after you have solved the differential equation. So let us now put the values of C and K in the general solution, this one, to get the mathematical model. So the mathematical model for the system is temperature of cake equal to temperature of room plus C, which is 240. Now one thing you have to remember here, the unit of K is time inverse or minute inverse, because here you can see that the natural log, this one is dimensionless, and this 1 by 10 is 1 by time unit, because the time was 10 minutes. So in this equation, K was multiplied by the time, that is 10 minutes, and it has been divided with this natural log term. So that is why the unit of K is minute inverse. So the mathematical model is T equal to TR plus 240 degrees e to the power K, which is minus 0.0539 T, and this is the mathematical model of the system. Now in this model we can write 60 in place of TR. Now you can see that using this mathematical model we can plug any value of time and it will give us the temperature of the cake at that point of time. Now as per the question, it is asking us at what time the temperature of the cake is approximately equal to the room temperature, that is 61 degrees Fahrenheit. So to know that, we will put T equal to 61 degrees Fahrenheit and evaluate the value of T, small t. Now before proceeding further, let us understand why the question is formed this way. Why it is asking that when will the temperature of the cake is practically equal to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, say 61 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason is, let us assume that after some time, that after time t, the temperature of the cake will reach 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So for that, we can put t equal to 60 in here, and we will see that if we put t equal to 60, the equation becomes 60 equal to 60 plus 240 e to the power minus 0.0539t. 60 and 60 cancels from the left and the right hand side, and this becomes e to the power minus 0.0539t equal to 0 by 240, which is 0, and this equation becomes 0 at t tends to infinity. You can see that this left hand side has negative exponent of e. That means this is 1 by e to the power 0.0539 t, and this term tends to 0 at t tending to infinity. So from this we can see that the cake will reach exactly the temperature of the surrounding or exactly the temperature of the room at time t equal to infinity. That is, the cake starts at 300 at time t equal to 0, reaches 200 after 10 minutes, but to reach exactly the room temperature it will take an infinite amount of time. So that is why in the question it is asked that at what time the cake will practically reach the room temperature or approximately reach the room temperature, say 61 degrees Fahrenheit. So to know that time, we will put t equal to 61 in here and evaluate the time. So let us do that. So we'll put t equal to 61, which is equal to 60 plus 240 e to the power minus 0.0539t. This implies e to the power minus 0.0539t equal to 1 by 240, which implies t equal to 101.68 minutes. Because the unit of time we had taken in minutes throughout the period, so that is why we got the unit of time in minutes. Also you can see that the unit of k was in minute inverse, so that is why the unit of t is in minutes. So that means after 101.68 minutes, the temperature of the cake will be approximately equal to or practically equal to the room temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. But the temperature of the cake will actually be 61 degrees Fahrenheit at time t 101.68 minutes.
Problem 32. Heating and cooling of a building. Heating and cooling of a building can be modeled by the ODE T dash equal to K1 T minus TA plus K2 T minus T omega plus P, where T is the temperature in the building at time T, TA is the outside temperature, T omega is the temperature wanted in the building, and P is the rate of increase of time due to machines and people in the building. And K1 and K2 are negative constants. Solve this ODE assuming P constant, T omega constant, and TA varying sinusoidally over 24 hours. Say TA equal to A minus C cos 2 pi by 24t. Discuss the effect of each term of the equation on the solution. Let's first write down the differential equation given in the question. T dash equal to K1 T minus TA plus K2 T minus T omega plus P. Here, this first term T is the temperature in the building at time T. TA, this term is the outside temperature. T omega is the temperature wanted inside the building. So this P is rate of increase of temperature due to machine and people in the building. K1 and K2 are constants but negative constants. So we can write this K1 and K2 are negative constants. Also, it has been given in the problem that this P, T omega are also constants, and TA has been given to be A minus C cos 2 pi by 24 t. In the question, it has been given that this function has a period of 24 hours. Let us verify that. We know that the function y equal to cos bt has a period of 2 pi by absolute value of b. So this function should have a period of 2 pi divided by this term 2 pi by 24. These 2 pi terms cancel out and this is equal to 24. So we can see that this function TA equal to a minus c cos 2 pi by 24 t has a period of 24 hours, which is logical because TA represents outside temperature and the outside temperature increases in the daytime, decreases in the night time, and this cycle continues every 24 hours. So that is why the period of this function is 24 hours. Now what about this A term? This A term is only offset term. So for example, if this is the graph of sin theta, then the graph of A plus sin theta will just shift upwards in the y-axis. So this term is nothing but a offset term. This term helps this cos function go upwards or downwards. Anyway, now that the differential equation is established, we are going to solve the differential equation and explain each term of the solution. So let us solve the differential equation. For that, we will put this TA term inside and rewrite the differential equation. So the differential equation is T dash equal to K1 T minus TA, which is A plus C cos 2 pi by 24 t plus K2 t minus t omega plus p. Let us review again which of the terms are constant. So this p term is a constant, t omega is a constant, K2 is a negative constant. Anyway, it is a constant. A is a constant, K1 is a constant. This T is a function of time, that is temperature in the building is a function of time. This is T. This term varies with time. This term also varies with time. So in this differential equation, T is the dependent variable and small t is the independent variable. So let us rearrange this equation before solving the equation. So we can write this as, this implies T dash equal to K1T minus K1A plus K1C cos 2 pi by 24t plus K2T minus K2 T omega plus P. The right hand side can be written as K1 plus K2T. We have grouped the T terms. then plus k1c cos 2 pi by 24 t. This is the small t term. Now let us keep the constant terms at the end. So this will be p minus k1a minus k2 t omega. Now this equation looks like a non-homogeneous linear differential equation of the form y dash plus p of xy equal to r of x. We just have to rearrange the terms, then it will look like this. For that, we will take this t term to the left hand side, and this will be the r of x term, because r of x is just a function of x, where x was the independent variable. Here t is the independent variable, so this whole term will be r of x. Let us rewrite this, and this will be t dash minus k1 plus k2t equal to k1c cos 2 pi by 24t plus p minus k1a minus k2 t omega. Now you have to note one thing, that this p term in this equation is different from this p term in the differential equation. So now let us compare these two equations, that is the standard form of non-homogeneous linear differential equation, with our given differential equation, and write down the solution. So we have h equal to integration of this p of x dx, and this is the p of x term. So this is equal to minus integration of k1 plus k2 dt. We are writing dt here instead of dx because, as we have already discussed, here t is the independent variable, and r equal to k1c cos 2 pi by 24 t plus p minus k1a minus k2 t omega. H can be written as minus k1 plus k2 t. So now we can write the solution, that is t as a function of t equal to e to the power minus h, where h is minus k1 plus k2t. So this is e to the power k1 plus k2t multiplied by integration of e to the power h, which is e to the power minus k1 plus k2t multiplied by r of x, which is k1c cos 2 pi by 24t plus p minus k1a minus k2 t omega dt plus constant of integration. Now we have to write c1 here because the c term has already been used in here. Now we have to integrate this term to get the solution. For that, we will write this as e to the power k1 plus k2t integration of e to the power minus k1 plus k2t multiplied by k1c cos 2 pi by 24t plus integration of p minus K1A minus K2 T omega e to the power minus K1 plus K2T dt plus constant of integration C1. Now we have separated this cos term and rest of the terms because these three terms, they are constant terms. So we have taken them separately. These terms can be taken out of the integration, and this e to the power minus k1 plus k2t term can be integrated easily. Here there will be a dt. So let us integrate the individual terms and get the solution. So this is equal to e to the power k1 plus k2t integration of k1c. We have taken the constant term outside, and this is e to the power minus k1 plus k2t multiplied by cos 2 pi by 24t dt plus the constant terms can be taken out of the second term. So this is p minus k1a minus k2 t omega, and integration of e to the power minus k1 plus k2t will be e to the power minus k1 plus k2t divided by minus k1 plus k2 plus constant of integration c1. Now let us simplify this, and this is equal to e to the power k1 plus k2t integration of k1c. Now to do this integration by parts, we are going to use the ILATE rule. For that, trigonometric functions has higher precedence. So let us take this trigonometric function first and write the exponential function after the trigonometric function. So this is cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2t dt minus, because here there is a minus term in the denominator. So this is p minus k1a minus k2 t omega divided by k1 plus k2 e to the power minus k1 plus k2t plus c1. Now this e to the power k1 plus k2t term can be multiplied with each of the inside terms, because we can see that this e to the power k1 plus k2t term, when multiplied with this e to the power minus k1 plus k2t term, will give us 1. So let us further simplify this down. So this is equal to k1c e to the power k1 plus k2t integration of cos 2 pi by 24t e to the power minus k1 plus k2t dt minus, so this is p minus k1a minus k2 t omega divided by k1 plus k2 plus c1 e to the power k1 plus k2. Now let us take this term as q and find the value of q by using integration by parts method. So q is integration of cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2 t dt. We know that integration of uv dx equal to u integration of v dx minus integration of u dash integration v dx. This is the formula for integration by part. And here let us take this trigonometric function as u and this exponential function as v and find the value of q by using integration by parts method. So this is equal to cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by integration of e to the power minus k1 plus k2t, which is e to the power minus k1 plus k2t divided by minus k1 plus k2 minus integration of derivative of the first term u, which is minus 2 pi by 24 multiplied by sine 2 pi by 24t multiplied by integration of e to the power minus k1 plus k2t, which is this term. So this is e to the power minus k1 plus k2t divided by minus k1 plus k2 dt. Now let us simplify this, and this is equal to minus 1 divided by k1 plus k2 multiplied by cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2t. This minus term and this minus term when multiplied gives us minus 1. So this is minus 2 pi by 24 k1 plus k2 integration of sine 2 pi by 24t e to the power minus k1 plus k2t dt. Now to find this integration, we have to use integration by parts again. So this is equal to minus 1 by k1 plus k2 cos 2 pi by 24t e to the power minus k1 plus k2t minus 2 pi by 24 k1 plus k2 multiplied by, let us take this first term as u, second term as v, and use integration by parts rule again. So this is sine 2 pi by 24 t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2t divided by minus k1 plus k2 minus integration of derivative of sine 2 pi by 24t is 2 pi by 24 cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by integration of e to the power minus k1 plus k2t. So this is e to the power minus k1 plus k2t divided by minus k1 plus k2 bracket n. So let us simplify this expression. So this implies q equal to minus cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2t divided by k1 plus k2. This minus term and this minus term when multiplied gives us plus. So this is plus 2 pi divided by 24 k1 plus k2 square sin 2 pi by 24t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2t. Again, this minus symbol multiplied by this minus gives us plus, which when multiplied by this minus gives us minus. So this is minus 2 pi square divided by 24 square k1 plus k2 square integration of cos 2 pi by 24t multiplied by e to the power minus k1 plus k2t. We can see that this term is equal to q. We have taken this term equal to q. So this expression can again be written as q equal to e to the power minus k1 plus k2t multiplied by minus cos 2 pi by 24t divided by k1 plus k2 plus 2 pi multiplied by sin 2 pi by 24t divided by 24 k1 plus k2 whole square bracket end minus 4 pi square divided by 24 square k1 plus k2 square multiplied by q. This q term can be taken to the left hand side and this will be equal to q whole into 1 plus 4 pi square by 24 square k1 plus k2 whole square equal to e to the power minus k1 plus k2t whole into 2 pi by 24 k1 plus k2 whole square sin 2 pi by 24t minus 1 by k1 plus k2 cos 2 pi by 24t. Now we know the formula A sin theta plus B cos theta equal to C sin theta plus phi, where C equal to plus or minus square root of A square plus B square and phi equal to tan inverse B by A. This formula are used where there is a sine term and a cosine term and those are added to convert them into a single term. Same case here, there is a constant term multiplied by a sine term and a constant term multiplied by a cosine term. So we can reduce this whole curly bracket thing into one single term. So from here we can write this implies q multiplied by 24 square k1 plus k2 square plus 4 pi square divided by 24 square k1 plus k2 whole square equal to e to the power minus k1 plus k2t multiplied by c, which is plus or minus square root of a square plus b square. This first term, this term is a and this term is b from this formula a sine theta. The term that is multiplied by sine theta is a, so this constant term is a, and the term that is multiplied by cos theta is b, so b is minus 1 by k1 plus k2. So we have square root of 4 pi square divided by 24 square k1 plus k2 to the power 4 plus 1 by k1 plus k2 square multiplied by sine of theta is 2 pi by 24t, 2 pi by 24t plus phi, which is tan inverse b by a. So here we will write phi, where phi equal to tan inverse b, which is minus 1 by k1 plus k2 divided by a, which is 2 pi by 24 k1 plus k2 square, 2 pi by 24 k1 plus k2 square, which is equal to tan inverse minus 24 k1 plus k2 square divided by k1 plus k2 multiplied by 2 pi, which is equal to tan inverse minus 24 divided by k1 plus k2 2 pi, and this is equal to minus tan inverse 24 by k1 plus k2 2 pi. So we can put this value of phi in here and rewrite this as, this implies q equal to 24 square k1 plus k2 whole square divided by 24 square k1 plus k2 whole square plus 4 pi square e to the power minus k1 plus k2 t multiplied by 4 pi square divided by 24 square k1 plus k2 to the power 4 plus 1 by k1 plus k2 square sine 2 pi by 24t minus tan inverse 24 by k1 plus k2 2 pi. This is the value of q, and this q we can replace in here to get the value of t, that is the solution. So let us do that. So we had t equal to this much, and here this term was q, and we will replace this value in here and we will rewrite this equation So we have T equal to K1C. This e to the power K1 plus K2T term multiplied with this gives us 1. So this is K1C multiplied by 24 square K1 plus K2 whole square divided by 24 square K1 plus K2 whole square plus 4 pi square multiplied by, in the denominator we have 24 K1 plus K2 square, and in the numerator we have square root of 4 pi square plus 24 square K1 plus K2 square multiplied by sine 2 pi by 24t minus tan inverse 24 by K1 plus K2 multiplied by 2 pi minus these two terms. So minus P minus K1A minus K2 T omega divided by K1 plus K2 plus C1 e to the power K1 plus K2T. And this is the solution that we have obtained. So this function gives us temperature of the inside of the building as a function of time t. So if we put any value of time t, this function will give the temperature inside the building. Let us cancel some of these terms and simplify this equation and rewrite it. So this implies T equal to this K1 plus K2 square term, these two cancel out. 24 cancels with 24 square, and we have 24 K1C square root of 4 pi square plus 24 square K1 plus K2 square divided by 24 square K1 plus K2 square plus 4 pi square multiplied by the sine term, which is sine 2 pi by 24t minus tan inverse 24 divided by K1 plus K2 multiplied by 2 pi minus P minus K1A minus K2 T omega divided by K1 plus K2 plus C1 e to the power K1 plus K2t. Before proceeding further with the problem, I would like to correct two mistakes that I have done while solving the problem. One of the mistakes is the C value should be absolute value of square root of a square plus b square, which means it should be plus value of square root of a square plus b square. But during solving the problem, we have already considered the plus value or positive value. So the problem goes on correctly after this step. Another mistake is when this k1 k2 cancels with k1 plus k2 square, this k1 plus k2 term goes to the numerator, not to the denominator. So this is plus k2 in the numerator. Similarly in here, it should be in the numerator. Similarly, in the other steps, I have to correct it also. the k1 plus k2 should be in the numerator. So k1 plus k2 here in the numerator, also here in the numerator, so and also in this step. Now let us proceed further with the problem. Now to simplify this equation, let us assume this first term as alpha, this term as phi as we have considered earlier, and this term as beta. Then this equation can be written as t of t equal to alpha sine 2 pi by 24t plus phi plus beta plus c1 e to the power k1 plus k2t. Now let us see alpha, beta and phi. You can see that the constituent terms of alpha are all constant terms. K1 is a constant, C is a constant, pi is a constant, K2 is also a constant. So all these terms inside alpha are constants. That means alpha is a constant. Similarly, let us look at phi. Phi is minus tan inverse 24 K1 plus K2 by 2 pi, and K1 and K2 are constants. So this phi term is also a constant. Let us look at beta. For beta, the constituent terms are P, K1, A, K2, T omega, and all those terms are also constants. So that means beta is also a constant. So all three terms are constants. They may be positive or negative, but all of them are constants. This much we know. One more thing we have to note here is that the exponent of E, which is K1 plus K2, is negative. So this exponent is negative, because in the problem it has been given that K1 and K2 are negative constants. Now let us look at the statement of the problem to see what the question wants. The question is asking us, discuss the effect of each term of the equation on the solution. So we have to explain the effect of each of the terms of the equation on the solution. The differential equation given in the question is this one, where T is the temperature inside the building, TA is the outside temperature, TW is the wanted temperature, and P is the rate of increase of temperature due to man and machines. And K1 and K2 are given, which are negative constants. And this T is the temperature inside the building at any time T. So we have to explain the effect of each of the terms of the equation on the solution. For that, let us understand what the graph of the solution would look like. So we can see there are three terms in this solution. This term is the exponential term. This term is the constant term. And the first term is the sinusoidal term. So let us guess what the graph would look like. We know that the exponent of this e to the power k1 plus k2t term is negative, because k1 and k2 are given to be negative constants. We know that the graph of e to the power minus x would look something like this. Now what would happen if we add beta, a constant, to the e to the power x graph? That would shift this e to the power x term upwards or downwards by beta amount, depending upon the sign of beta. If beta is positive, then beta plus c1 e to the power k1 plus k2t would be shifted upwards from this graph, which was the graph of e to the power k1 plus k2t. So The effect of beta is to shift the graph upwards. Now next, let us see what would happen if we add the sinusoidal term to it. The effect of the sinusoidal term will be this value would oscillate about the previous graph. So if we add alpha sine, let us say this inside term is theta, then alpha sine theta plus beta plus c1 e to the power k1 plus k2 t, the graph would look something like this. Let us verify whether this actually looks like this or not. Let us take some random values of alpha, theta, beta, c1 and k1, k2 to see what the graph would actually look like. Let us take alpha equal to 2, phi, let us take 0 for simplicity. We will see later in the problem that the effect of phi is only to shift the phase angle of the sine wave. It doesn't actually change the shape of the graph that much. Let us take beta as 5. Let us take c1 equal to 10 and k1 plus k2, let us take it as -1. So the equation of the solution would then be t of t equal to 2 sine 2 pi by 24 t plus 5 plus 10 e to the power minus t. Let us go to the graphing calculator of Windows to draw this graph to see whether this looks like this or not. So the graph looks like this. We can see that it starts in the negative side from minus infinity, and in the positive side it looks like a sine wave, something similar to this. The reason is obvious because in the graph there are three terms: a positive offset term of 5, an exponential term which decreases with increase of x, and a sine wave which gives rise to the oscillation in the graph. In the graph, this exponential term causes the graph to decrease like this. This term causes the graph to shift upwards in the y-axis, and this sine term causes the oscillation in the graph. Let us explain more. There are various terms such as t, ta, k1, k2, t omega, p, etc. And we can see that the alpha is a function of k1, c, k2, all these terms. So alpha is a function of k1, c, k2, these three terms. So this k1, k2 and c, where c comes from this ta term, because ta was given to be a minus c sine 2 pi by 24 t. So these three terms decide the value of alpha, and alpha is the amplitude of this oscillation. We know that in the function a sine theta, this a is the amplitude of this oscillation of the sine wave from the 0 value of y. So this alpha, which is multiplied by this sine term, causes the amplitude of this sine wave. That is how high the sine wave oscillates, that is being decided by alpha, and in return k1, k2 and c. So k1, k2 and c, these three terms decide the amplitude of this oscillation. Now let us go to phi. So phi is a function of k1 and k2, and phi is the phase shift of the sine wave. We know that a sine theta plus phi shifts the sine wave left or right depending on the value of phi. In a normal sine theta function, it starts at x equal to 0, y equal to 0, Whereas in this function at theta equal to 0, the value of the function is a sine phi. So this value is a sine phi. So this sine phi term keeps the shape of the sine wave same but shifts it to left and right depending on the value of phi. And phi is controlled by k1 and k2. So k1 and k2, these two terms also contribute to the phase shift of the oscillation of the graph. So we see that k1, k2 contribute to the amplitude also and also to the phase shift. Now let us go to beta, and we see that beta is controlled by p, k1, k2, a and t omega. So beta is a function of p, k1, k2, t omega and also a. So beta is the offset term which shifts the graph upwards in the y-axis or downwards depending on the sign of beta. And beta is controlled by p, k1, k2, t omega and a. So all these terms p, k1, k2, t omega and a contribute to the offset of the graph on the y-axis. So we can see that k1, k2 also contributes to the offset of the graph on the y-axis. Now let us see this k1 plus k2 term of the exponential function. So k1 and k2 also control how fast this graph goes to infinity. So k1 and k2 also control the rate of fall of the graph towards 0. So we see that these various terms of the original differential equation k1, k2, t omega, a and c, all these terms contribute to the shape of the graph and how fast it moves towards 0. Now let's see what happens for extreme values of t, that is t tends to infinity, t tends to minus infinity and t equal to 0. We can see in this graph, in this solution, that if t tends to infinity, then the exponent of this term will become positive because t is minus infinity and k1 and k2 are also negative. So these two terms multiplied gives a positive term. So e to the power a positive term, and that positive term tends to infinity. So this t of t equal to the sine wave plus beta plus c e to the power positive infinity. And this term tends to infinity, and we know the sine wave or the sine term goes from -1 to +1 at best. So these two terms are negligible compared to this term which is infinity. So that is why when time tends to minus infinity, this graph suddenly rises towards plus infinity, because we see that c e to the power infinity tends to infinity. And since this value infinity is very high compared to this sine term, that is why oscillations are not being observed in the negative part of the x-axis, because this term is very large in compared to the sine term. Now what happens at t tends to plus infinity? This case is for t tends to minus infinity. At t tends to infinity, this term, the exponent of e would be tending to minus infinity, because t tends to infinity, k1 and k2 are negative terms, so multiplied gives rise to minus infinity, so e to the power minus infinity. So this term will be alpha, this sine term, plus beta plus e to the power minus infinity, and e to the power minus infinity tends to 0. So this term is approximately 0 or tends to 0, and this remaining term is just a sine wave. Beta is just the offset and this is a sine wave. That is why when t tends to infinity, it looks more and more like just a sine function. You can see in this part of the graph. What happens at t equal to 0? At t equal to 0, this term will be e to the power 0, which is equal to c1, and this term would be sine phi. So this will be equal to, at t tends to 0, t of t would be alpha sine phi plus beta plus c1, and beta is a constant, c1 is a constant, also phi is a constant, so sin phi is a constant. So this point of intersection of the graph with the x-axis is given by this, which is alpha sin phi beta plus c1. So alpha, phi, beta and c1 also contribute at what point the graph intersects with the y-axis. So this is how these constituent terms contribute to the final solution, which is this one. Problem 33, drug injection. Find and solve the model for drug injection into the bloodstream if beginning at time t equal to 0, a constant amount a gram per minute is injected and the drug is simultaneously removed at a rate proportional to the amount of drug present at time t. Let us assume P of t as the amount of drug present at any time t. So B of t equal to amount of drug present in blood at any time t. Now it is given that a gram per minute is being injected. So injection rate is a gram per minute and drug is being removed at a rate proportional to the amount of drug present at any time t. So P of t is the amount of drug present at any time t. So removal rate is proportional to B of t. Removal rate is proportional to B of t, or we can write removal rate equal to K B of t, where K is a constant of proportionality. Drug is being injected at A grams per minute and drug is being removed K B of t grams per minute. The question is asking us to find a model and solve it. So from this we can say the rate of change of drug in the bloodstream, that is dB of t by dt equal to injection rate minus removal rate, and this one is the rate of change of drug in the bloodstream. So from this we can write dB of t by dt equal to A minus K B of t, and this is the differential equation or the model for drug injection into bloodstream. So now I've found the model. Next let us solve it. We can solve this model in two ways, either by separation of variables method or by using the method taught in this section, that is linear differential equation method. So let us rewrite this differential equation, which is b dash equal to a minus kb, which implies b dash plus kb equal to a. And if we compare this with the standard form of non-homogeneous linear differential equation, then which was y dash plus py equal to r, then we have p equal to k and r equal to a. So we have h equal to integration of p dt, because you can see here the independent variable is t, so we will write p dt. This is equal to integration of k dt, which is kt. So the solution will be b of t equal to e to the power minus h integration of e to the power h r dt plus c, which is equal to e to the power minus kt integration of a, which is r, e to the power kt dt plus c, which is equal to e to the power minus kt, inside it will be a by k e to the power kt plus c, and this is equal to equal to A by K plus C e to the power minus Kt. And this is the general solution of the differential equation. Next, it is given in the question that beginning at t equal to 0, constant amount was being injected into the bloodstream. That means exactly at t equal to 0, there was no drug in the bloodstream. So we have an initial value condition, which is at t equal to 0, the amount of drug in the bloodstream equal to 0. So the initial value condition that we have is B of 0 equal to 0. We will put that initial value condition into the general solution, and we have 0 equal to A by K plus C multiplied by e to the power 0, which implies C equal to minus A by K, and we can put this value of C into the general solution to obtain the particular solution, which is B of t equal to A by K minus A by K e to the power minus kt, which is equal to A by K 1 minus e to the power minus kt. And this is the particular solution. So we have found the model of drug injection into bloodstream, and this is the solution of the model. Problem 34, epidemics. A model for the spread of contagious diseases is obtained by assuming that the rate of spread is proportional to the number of contacts between infected and non-infected persons who are assumed to move freely among each other. Set up the model, find the equilibrium solutions, and indicate their stability or instability. Solve the ODE, find the limit of the proportion of infected persons as t tends to infinity, and explain what it means. Let's start simple. Let us assume there are two infected persons, A and B, and there are three non-infected persons, P, Q, and R. So how many interactions are possible between the infected and non-infected persons? So A can interact with P, with Q, or with R. Similarly, B can interact with P or Q or R. So we can see there are 6 interactions possible. A can interact with P, Q, and R. Similarly, B can interact with P, Q, and R. So totally 6 interactions. This we get by multiplying 2 with 3. This is from the fundamental theorem of counting. If there are P ways to do one thing and Q ways to another thing, then total number of ways both things can be done is P multiplied by Q. Let us proceed. Now let us assume total population is P and assume that I of t is number of infected people at any time t. So total number of people or persons who are not infected is P minus I, because P is the total population and IT is the number of infected persons. So now using this same principle, we can say that number of interactions between the infected persons and non-infected persons is IT, this term multiplied by P minus IT. So we can write number of contacts between infected and non-infected persons is I of t multiplied by P minus I of t. Now in the question it is given that the rate of spread is proportional to the number of contacts between the infected and non-infected persons. So what do we mean by rate of spread? Now rate of spread is same as the rate of increase of infected persons. So rate of spread is equal to di by dt. So now that we have established this much, Let us formulate the differential equation. As per the question, this rate of spread is proportional to this quantity, which is number of contacts between infected and non-infected persons. So we can write di by dt, or rate of spread, is proportional to I multiplied by p minus I. This represents the number of interactions or contacts between infected and non-infected persons. This implies, now we can introduce a constant of proportionality, and we can write I dash, which is same as di by dt, equal to k I p minus I. So this is the differential equation that we have formulated. Now this differential equation is an autonomous ODE because the independent variable, which is t here, is not shown in the equation explicitly. This right hand side term is a function of I only, and t is not shown explicitly in this differential equation. That is why it is called an autonomous ODE. We have discussed more about autonomous ODEs in problem set 1.2, problem number 11. You can refer video number 5 for that. The direction field of an autonomous ODE has a special property which we have discussed in that problem. Now the question is asking to find the equilibrium solutions and indicate their stability or instability. Now a special property of autonomous ODE is it has some constant solutions. It has other solutions also, but there are some solutions which are constant solutions. So if solutions are constant, we can write I of t equal to constant, because this will be a solution. So from this we can write I dash equal to 0, and if we put I dash equal to 0 in here, it will be k I p minus I equal to 0, which implies I equal to p or 0. So these two can be two constant solutions to the autonomous ODE, and these solutions are called equilibrium solutions. Now let us see if these equilibrium solutions are stable or not, which one is stable and which one is unstable. For that, we have to draw the direction fields or slope fields of the differential equation. Then we'll learn how to draw a phase line of a differential equation, and from that how to interpret which of the solutions are stable and which ones are unstable. To learn how to draw slope fields of differential equation using a CAS system or a computer algebraic system, refer to video number 5 of this Kreyszig series. I will assume that you already have seen that video and will proceed further. So to plot the direction field of the differential equation, I dash equal to k I p minus I. Let us assume two values of k and p. Let us assume k equal to 1 and p equal to 4. We can substitute these two values in the differential equation to know about the behavior of the slope field, and from that we can interpret the behavior of slope field of this original equation. So if we put k equal to 1 and p equal to 4, then the differential equation will become I dash equal to I multiplied by 4 minus I, and let us plot this differential equation using Sage Math. So we will write variable x, y, plot underscore slope underscore field. Then we'll write the function, the right hand side of this differential equation. In the video number 5, we have already discussed the syntax of the plot slope field command. For that, we keep the derivative part on the left hand side of the equation, and the right hand side of the equation we put in the plot slope field command. So we'll write y multiplied by 4 minus y. We've written y here because y is the dependent variable, and in this equation you can see I is the dependent variable and t was the independent variable. Now let us plot this slope field for x range -5 to +5 and y range -5 to +5. So we'll write x range -5 to 5 and y range -5 to 5. You can see that in this function there is no x value because it is an autonomous ODE. That is why the independent variable doesn't appear. If you press evaluate, it will plot the slope field or the direction field. You can see at 4 and at 0, the slope field has slope approximately equal to 0. You can see at 4, the slope is 0. Also at 0, the slope is 0. That means if slope is 0, then I dash equal to 0, which means I equal to constant, and those are the equilibrium solutions. Now, this equation I dash equal to I minus 4I has two solutions, which are I equal to 0 and I equal to 4, and that is why the slope field has 0 slope at 4 and 0. In the same manner, for this general equation, the slope field would have 0 slope at p and 0. We have replaced p with 4 here. Now let us see if the equilibriums are stable or not. Let us copy this. Now in this slope field, this axis is the I-axis and this one is the T-axis. You can see at I equal to P, let us assume this as P, the solutions closer to it come towards I, and for I equal to 0, the solutions go away from I. That is why this I equal to P is a stable equilibrium point, and this one I equal to 0 is an unstable equilibrium point. Now you don't have to draw the slope field. We have already discussed in video number 5, problem number 11, that the autonomous ODE has constant slope for various values of t. You can see if we draw a horizontal line, then all these small linear elements has the same slope, and this is true for any horizontal line. Any horizontal line we draw, the linear elements that intersect the horizontal line all have the same slope. That means if we draw a horizontal line to the x-axis or to the t-axis here, then all the linear elements it intersects has the same slope. This is a special property of autonomous ODE because you can see in this equation the slope I dash is not dependent on t. That is why for various values of t, even if we change t, the slope doesn't change because this function is not dependent on t. Next, let us learn how to draw a phase line of a autonomous ODE. Now, since the property of the direction field doesn't change with change in t, then we can reduce this two-dimensional picture into a single-dimensional straight line, because you can see if we take any cross section A, B or C, the slope of the linear elements will be same across all cross section. You can see at C, this is same as this, which is same as this one. Also here, this linear element, this one and this one are same, because the property of the linear elements doesn't change with change in value of t. So we can reduce this two-dimensional picture into a single-dimensional straight line, which is called a phase line. Now let us learn how to draw a phase line. Phase line is a vertical straight line, and this line represents I values only or y values. The x values or t values doesn't matter because it is an autonomous ODE. For phase line, first we put the solution values in. So I equal to 0 is a solution. We put I equal to 0. Then I equal to P is a solution. So first we put the solution values in. Now the phase line has been divided into 3 sections. One section is below 0, one section is between 0 and P, and the third section is above P. Now let us see for which section of the phase line derivatives I dash, which is di by dt, are positive, and for which section it is negative. Now for the top section, di by dt will be negative, because for the top section p values are greater than p. So this p minus I in the differential equation will be negative. I will be positive because p values are greater than 0. So I is positive, p minus I is negative, multiplied gives us a negative term. So I dash is negative or slope is negative. So that is why for this top half above of p, di by dt is less than 0. For this middle section, di by dt is positive, because for this middle section the I values are between 0 and p, which is positive because it is greater than 0. So this I is positive. P minus I will be positive because I values are between 0 and p. So this whole term is positive. That means I dash or di by dt is positive. For less than 0, di by dt will be negative, because I value is negative. So this I term is negative. P minus I will be positive because I term is negative. So P minus I positive. So that means I dash is negative. So that means for this upper section above P, di by dt is negative. For this middle section, di by dt is greater than 0. And for this bottom section, di by dt is less than 0. Now for negative di by dt, we draw arrow downwards. For positive, we draw arrow upwards, and also here upwards between 0 and p. And for negative, we draw downwards. Now these are the 2 points of solution, 0 and p. Now if the arrows point towards the solution, then it is a stable equilibrium. That means for stable equilibrium, the arrow points towards the solution. And this is the unstable equilibrium, because the arrows point away from the solution. So unstable equilibrium will be like this. So from this we conclude that P is a stable equilibrium solution and 0 is a unstable equilibrium solution. Next, the problem is asking us to solve the ODE. So let us rewrite the differential equation again. The differential equation is I dash equal to k I p minus I. This differential equation can be solved by 2 methods. One method is given in this section. Other method is by separation of variables method. Now autonomous differential equations by their properties can be solved by separation of variable method, because in the right hand side there will be no explicit independent variable. So these all dependent variables can be taken to the left side and dt term can be taken to the right hand side, and we can separate the variables, and thus we can solve this differential equation by using separation of variables method. So let us see how to do that. So we can write this as di by I multiplied by p minus I equal to k dt. The left hand side can be integrated by using partial fractions method. We have already discussed how to integrate using partial fractions method in problem set 1.5, problem number 22 in video number 15. Also in problem set 1.3, problem number 9 in video number 6. If you want to solve this differential equation by using separation of variables method, then you can refer to those videos. But now we will solve this differential equation using the method given in this section. So let us write this differential equation as I dash equal to k I p minus k I square. This can be written as I dash minus k I p equal to minus k I square. We can see that this is in Bernoulli equation form, where a equal to 2 because this exponent is 2. For Bernoulli equation, we know the substitution, which is u equal to I to the power 1 minus a or y to the power 1 minus a. Here the dependent variable is I, so we are writing I to the power 1 minus a, which is equal to I to the power 1 minus 2, which is I to the power minus 1, which implies u dash equal to minus I to the power minus 2 I dash, which implies u dash equal to minus I to the power minus 2, and in place of I dash we can write kip minus ki square. So this is kip minus ki square. Now this I to the power minus 2 term gets multiplied inside, and the right hand side can be written as minus kp I to the power minus 1 plus k. Now this I to the power minus 1 is same as u, so this is equal to minus kpu plus k. Now this can again be written as u dash plus kpu equal to k. Now we can see that this is in the standard form of non-homogeneous linear differential equation, and for that the solution is u equal to e to the power minus h integration of e to the power h r dt plus constant of integration c, and h equal to integration of this term dt, so integration of k p dt, which is equal to kpt. So this is equal to e to the power minus kpt multiplied by r equal to k, so this is equal to k divided by kp e to the power kpt plus constant of integration c, which can be written as 1 by p plus c e to the power minus kpt. Now we know u equal to I to the power minus 1, so this implies I equal to 1 divided by 1 by p plus c e to the power minus kpt, which can be written as p divided by 1 plus cp e to the power minus kpt, and this is the solution of the differential equation it equal to p divided by 1 plus cp e to the power minus kpt, and this is the general solution of the differential equation. Now we have found other solutions also, which are I equal to p and 0, and those were the constant solutions because of the property of autonomous ODEs. Let us see what the question is asking further. Find the limit of the proportion of infected persons as time t tends to infinity and explain what it means. Now let us understand what this solution means. This solution gives I as a function of t. We know it is the number of infected persons at any time t. So this function or this solution gives the number of infected persons at any time t. So if we put any value of t in here, then this I of t we get will be the number of infected persons at that time t. So the question is asking us to put t tends to infinity to see how many persons are infected at t tends to infinity. So if t tends to infinity, then we can write this as it equal to limit t tends to infinity p divided by 1 plus cp e to the power minus kpt. Now if t tends to infinity, this exponent term minus kpt will tend to minus infinity because it is a negative term, and e to the power minus infinity, this term tends to 0. So this cp e to the power minus kpt term will tend to 0 and this will be equal to p. So that means at t tends to infinity, I of t tends to p. Now what does this mean? This means after infinite amount of time, the whole of the population that is p will be infected. This means after a significant amount of time, all the population which are not infected will eventually be infected. Now let us discuss a little bit more about the physical significance of stable and unstable equilibrium. Let us take this valley and this mountain. Now let us keep a ball exactly at the bottom point of the valley like this and exactly at the top point of the mountain. We can see in both of the cases the ball will stay there. In the valley case, if we keep the ball exactly at the bottom point of the valley, then it will stay there until another force is applied. Also in the top of the mountain, if we keep the ball exactly at the top point of the mountain, then the ball will stay there until another force is applied. However, in the bottom of the valley case, if we introduce a little bit of motion towards the left or towards the right, then the ball will tend to go towards the bottom point of the valley again and reach the equilibrium again. That is why it is called a stable equilibrium. However, in the mountain case, if we introduce a little bit of motion, then the ball will run off towards the bottom point of the mountain. So this is called an unstable equilibrium. So we see in both of the cases the ball was in equilibrium. However, in the stable equilibrium case, if you introduce an outside force, then the ball tends to reach towards the original equilibrium position. However, in the unstable equilibrium case, if you introduce an outside force, then the ball runs away from the unstable equilibrium case. Exactly this happens here. We can see that for stable equilibrium, the slopes, all of the slopes, they point towards the stable equilibrium point, that is I equal to P. However, for this unstable equilibrium, the slope linear elements, they point away from the stable equilibrium point. Same thing here. The arrows, they point towards the stable equilibrium. However, for unstable equilibrium, the arrows, they point outwards. Problem 35. Lake Erie has a water volume of about 450 km cube and a flow rate in and out of about 175 km cube. Here there is a mistake in the question. It should be kilometer cube per year. If at some instant the lake has pollution concentration P equal to 0.04%, how long approximately will it take to decrease it to P by 2, assuming that the inflow is much cleaner? Say it has pollution concentration P by 4 and the mixture is uniform an assumption that is only imperfectly true. So, it is given in the question that the volume of the lake is 450 kilometer cube and flow rate in and out of the lake is 175 kilometer cube per year. So, flow rate is 175 kilometer cube per year in and also out. It should be obvious that the flow rate in and out should be equal. Otherwise, if the flow rate in is higher than the flow rate out, then the overall volume of the lake would keep on increasing. And if the flow rate in is less than the flow rate out, then the volume of the lake would keep on decreasing. Now, let us assume that y of t equal to amount of pollutants in the lake at time t. It is given in the question that at some instant the lake has a pollution concentration of P equal to 0.04%. Let us assume that at T equal to 0, the pollution concentration in the lake was 0.04%. Then at T equal to 0, Y of T will be P divided by 100 multiplied by 450. Because P is given in percentage, that is why we have divided 100 here. So, the pollution concentration in per unit value is P by 100, and multiplied to that, the volume of the lake gives us the amount of pollutants in the lake at any time t. So, Y of t equal to P by 100 into 450. Let me explain it further. So, we can see that if the volume of the lake was 100 kilometer cube, then the amount of pollution in the lake would have been 0.04 because it is given in percentage. So, for volume equal to 100, the amount of pollutants is 0.04. So, for volume equal to 1, the amount of pollutants, this is equal to P, would be P by 100, and for volume 450 kilometer cube, the amount of pollutants is P by 100 into 450, exactly what we have done here. First, we have expressed the pollution concentration from percentage to per unit. This was in percentage, this is in per unit. Then we have multiplied the volume of the lake to get the amount of pollutants in the lake at t equal to 0. One thing to remember here is Yt is the amount of pollutants in the lake, not the pollution concentration. P is the pollution concentration, whereas P by 100 into 450 is the amount of pollutants at time t equal to 0. So the initial value condition we have is Y of 0 equal to 450 by 100 P, which is equal to 9 by 2 P. Next, let us see the statement of the problem and formulate the model or the differential equation. Now it is given that the flow inside the lake is much cleaner, which has a pollution concentration of P by 4, and the flow out has the same pollution concentration of the lake at any time t, because it has been given in the question that the mixture is uniform. That means the flow out has a pollution concentration same as of the lake. Now it is important to remember that this P was the pollution concentration at starting only, at the beginning of the period, whereas Yt is the amount of pollutants in the lake at any time t. Now we have the balance law, which states rate of change of pollutants in lake or amount of pollutants in lake equal to rate of addition of pollutants minus rate of subtraction of pollutants, or rate of inflow of pollutants minus rate of outflow of pollutants. We have already solved a similar problem in problem number 24 of chapter 1.3 in video number 8. You can refer to that problem. Now from here we can write the rate of change of amount of pollutants is dy by dt. dy was the amount of pollutants and rate of change is dy by dt, and rate of inflow of pollutants is P by 4, which is the pollution concentration in the inflow, multiplied by 1 by 100 to convert the percentage into per unit, multiplied by the volume of the inflow, which is 175, minus the rate of the outflow. We have assumed that Yt amount of pollutants is present in the lake at any time t. Now this Yt amount is for 450 km cube. So for 175 km cube, the amount of pollutants will be Yt divided by 450 multiplied by 175. Again, this Yt amount of pollutants is in the lake at any time t. And this Yt amount is for entire volume of the lake, which is for 450 km cube. So if we convert the per unit concentration of the pollutants at any time t, that would be Yt by 450, which is then multiplied by the outflow rate 175 in the same method that we have done in here to get the rate of outflow of the pollutants. Let me describe this again for clarity. For inflow, we have for 100 km cube volume, the amount of pollution is P by 4. So for 1 km cube, it is P by 400, and for 175 km cube, it would be P by 400 multiplied by 175. And this much is for 1 year only. That is why it is written rate of inflow. Similarly, for outflow, we have for 450 km cube, the amount of pollutants is Y of t. So for 1 km cube, the amount of pollutants will be Y by 450. And similarly, for 175 km cube of outflow per year, the amount of pollutants that would be going out per year would be Y by 450 into 175. Now you can see one thing, since P is a constant, this rate of inflow is constant. And the amount of pollutants that is getting into the lake per year is always constant, because P is a constant, so this whole term is a constant. But this outflow rate depends on the amount of pollutants that is inside the lake. So this outflow term is a variable term. That is why there is a Yt term multiplied here. Now let us simplify this differential equation. So this implies y dash equal to P multiplied by 175 by 400 minus y of t multiplied by 175 by 450, which is equal to 7 by 16p minus 7 by 18y. So the differential equation is y dash equal to 7 by 16p minus 7 by 18y. Let us rewrite this in the standard form of non-homogeneous linear differential equation. That would be y dash plus 7 by 18y equal to 7 by 18p. And this is the differential equation or model of the system. Now let us solve the differential equation. So this is in the form of non-homogeneous linear differential equation, where this 7 by 18 is the p of x term, and this 7 by 8, this is 7 by 16, and this 7 by 16 is the r of x term. So we have h equal to integration of 7 by 18 dt, because t is the independent variable. So this is equal to 7 by 18t, and the solution is y of t equal to e to the power minus h, which is e to the power minus 7 by 18 t, whole into integration of e to the power h, which is 7 by 18 t, multiplied by r of x, which is this 7 by 16 term. So 7 by 16 p dt plus constant of integration c. Let us simplify this. So this will be e to the power minus 7 by 18 t whole into 7 by 16 p multiplied by 18 by 7 multiplied by e to the power 7 by 18 t plus constant of integration c. This is equal to 9 by 8 p plus c e to the power minus 7 by 18 t. And this is the general solution of the differential equation. Now since we have a initial value condition which is y of 0 equal to 9 by 2p, we can substitute that in here to get the value of c and then the particular solution. So we have y of 0 equal to 9 by 2p as the initial value condition. So we put 9 by 2p in here and t equal to 0 in here, and we can write 9 by 2p equal to 9 by 8p plus c, which implies c equal to 9 by 2p minus 9 by 8p, which is equal to 27 by 8p. So we have got c. Now we can substitute this value of c in the general solution to get the particular solution, which is y of t equal to 9 by 8p plus 27 by 8p e to the power minus 7 by 18t, which is equal to p by 8 whole into 9 plus 27 e to the power minus 7 by 18t. And this is the particular solution of the differential equation. Now let us see what the question is asking. The question is asking how long approximately will it take to decrease the pollution concentration to p by 2. Now for pollution concentration of p by 2, let us find what would be the corresponding value of y. Then we can put that value of y in here to get the time taken to reach that pollution concentration. So for pollution concentration of p by 2, we have y equal to p by 2 multiplied by 1 by 100 to convert the percentage into per unit, multiplied by the volume of the lake, which is 450. So this is the amount of pollutants corresponding to the pollution concentration of p by 2, and this is equal to 9 by 4p. So now we have the particular solution, which is y of t equal to p by 8 9 plus 27 e to the power minus 7 by 18t from here. In this equation, we can put the value of y of t, that is this one, to get the corresponding time, that is the time taken to reach that pollution concentration. This implies 9 by 4p equal to p by 8 9 plus 27 e to the power minus 7 by 18t. This implies 9 by 27 equal to e to the power minus 7 by 18t, which implies t equal to minus 18 by 7 natural log 9 by 27, and this is equal to 2.825 years, and we can convert this 2.852 years into months also. So this is approximately equal to 2 years, 10 months. So it will take 2 years, 10 months to reach the pollution concentration of P by 2 in the lake.